I'm here with Nils of Dynazty to talk about their upcoming new record, Game of Faces, out February 14th on Nuclear Blast. I cannot say thank you enough. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me about this record. How's things going with you?
Just fine. All good. I'm at home at the moment, just getting prepared for an upcoming European tour kicking off on February 21st in support of the new album. So it's all good. How are you?
Exciting times, exciting times. So, let me ask you about this record. How has the creative process for the band has evolved over the years and over the albums, and what kind of impact of that growth in the way you approach making a new record do you see affecting the way this album was put together?
Well, I mean, with every album that we make, we try to evolve somehow and to fine tune our creative process and our way of writing songs, producing songs, and making albums in general. So we always try out some new stuff and new ways. But with that being said, we do have a very set work formula that works very well for us at this point. But we do always try to find new ways and new methods of developing ourselves and our craft, if you will. With this album, if you compare it to the previous album, Final Advent, things have been a little bit different. We wrote Final Advent during the COVID pandemic time. So that was basically the only thing that we did then. But with this album, we were basically writing in between touring and other responsibilities. So it was a little bit different. We wrote a little here and there where we could. We wrote for a couple of months and then we were out on the road and then we picked it up again some months later and wrote. So therefore, it took a little longer than usual for us. Still not very long, but a little longer than usual.
Every album always feels like a snapshot of what the band is at the moment. But when I was listening to this album, I felt like this album is perhaps more of a snapshot of everything that you guys have done on the previous eight records that lends you to this record. Do you see this album more that a piece of another step in the ladder versus just a picture of where the ladder is?
I think it's both. I think definitely this is a continuation of our climb up the ladder, so to speak. But at the same time, it's also like you said, there are some influences on this album that I haven't heard from Dynasty in many, many years. There are some stuff that's actually resemblant of a lot of the stuff that we did in the very early days, just done by us now, many, many years later, and in a different way. But at the same time, there's also a lot of going into new territories with this album as well. So it's definitely, as always, a step forward for this band in general. But then again, with some influences that might originate back from our earlier days, even.
Who did you work with when it came to the production for this album? Because I thought the production wise, this album is magnificent.
Right. Well, I mean, we produce the songs ourselves when we write them. I mean, arranging wise and everything. But the album is mixed by Jens Bogren,
Wow.
Swedish producer and studio owner. Um, Maybe you've heard of him.
Yeah,
He's
yeah. I've had him on the channel.
okay, very cool. Well, this is the first time that we've ever worked with Jens Bogren, as a matter of fact, and it was a very, very exciting thing for us. He's been a legend in Sweden in the metal community and among fans and other metal bands for many, many years. He's pioneered a lot of things, and he was definitely one of the really, really big names early on when we started out as a band. So it was actually a bit of a dream come true for this band to finally work with Jens and have him mix our album. And we are very, very happy with the result.
Yeah, I love the fact that this record feels so consistent, quality wise, not necessarily on a song by song basis, but from a quality standpoint, every song delivers the maximum that each song can deliver. And it's such a fun record to listen to because there's no dead spots on the track list. It's not like there's a song where you can like switch off. No, every
Or
song.
breathe.
Yeah, yeah. It's like every song is so energetic, like great hooks, great choruses, both musically and vocally. So it's an album that feels very balanced on a quality standpoint. But then when you look at the sound, you guys created enough ebbs and flows. There's enough diversity that the whole record doesn't sound exactly the same. Like there's ups and downs. Is that from a portion of the way you guys approach the record and also a portion of how he approached the record from a production standpoint?
I think our the general approach that we wanted to have with this album was that it was supposed to be very immediate and direct, and sort of no prisoners taken, kind of balls to the wall, heavy kind of an aggressive album. Um, so we set out to write something like that, and something that is very cohesive. Some of our albums before have been a little bit more, maybe not experimental, but they've been wearing off into different territories. And here we wanted to make an album that was very like, this is what the album is. But towards the end of the process of writing songs, we felt that we need to write a couple of songs that will actually ease out the flow of the album, so that the listener can actually manage to sit through the whole thing from start to finish. So we wrote two of the last songs that we wrote for the album was Dream of Spring and Phoenix, who are kind of diverging a little bit from the frenzy of a lot of the tracks on the album, and actually gave it a bit of dynamics. Um, so this was the game plan. I don't know about Jens, but I think he just interpreted our album fantastically. I mean, we were really surprised when we got the first mixes, or actually when we got all the mixes of all the songs from him. There was basically nowhere where he had misinterpreted something that we had made or something that we had recorded, which was very, very impressive in general. He just understood exactly how this music was supposed to sound and how everything was supposed to be balanced. Very, very impressive.
When I was listening to the album, I was wondering how much of a fan of ABBA are you?
Good question. I mean, I wouldn't call myself personally not a super fan or extreme fan. Um, but being from Sweden and growing up in Sweden, it's absolutely impossible to not have a bit of ABBA in your musical DNA, for sure. But I mean, we've all listened to it. It's fantastic songwriting, fantastic production, cutting edge, pioneering production for the time with ABBA. And I mean, the songs are timeless. So I would be a liar if I would say that whenever I hear an ABBA song, I'm always struck by how absolutely fantastic they were as songwriters and record producers and whatnot. So, but yeah, I think it just comes out in our writing. It's
And there,
subconsciously or consciously, it just does.
yeah, and I thought it was really interesting because for me, this record, it mixes. It's for me, it's a power metal album through and through. I mean, the guitars on this album sound phenomenal. I think it's the best guitar sound you guys have ever had on the record, and your vocals are outstanding vocal performance on this album as well, which really matches the intensity of the sound that the guitars are given. But some of those more bouncy songs, for lack of a better term, like really reminded me of ABBA because you guys did something that they used to do really well, which is simplify stuff and make sure that the chorus hits home. Make sure you create a path to that chorus so that when the listener gets there, you get the payoff. And they used to do that extremely well with a sense of simplicity. And I feel like in certain tracks on this record, you guys achieved the same thing. That's why the ABBA question.
Right. I mean, this is definitely something that we try to push ourselves as songwriters to always make the song flow as efficiently as possible. And with this album in particular, we were very thorough when it came to like cutting out the fat in the song. So like this part doesn't really do anything for the song, take it out. Let's make one of those albums that is just very in your face, very direct and immediate from start to finish.
Yeah, that gives great playability to the album because when you're listening to the record, when you get to the last song, you don't feel like, it was good, but I need a break. Let me go do something else. No, the album, when you get to the end, you're like, fuck, I need to listen to it again. And you go back again to the beginning. I think from a playability standpoint, this is definitely the strongest album you guys ever released as well.
Wow, very cool.
I think
Cool to
it's,
hear.
to be honest with you, I think this is the best album Dynasty has ever released. So the question that I have for you is, what makes this the best album Dynasty has ever released?
For me personally, I mean, I think, like I said, I'm very proud of the fact that we had a game plan and we stuck to it and we actually delivered what we had initially planned to do. And I also love the fact that the album is very cohesive, and very much, in many ways, it's poppier than anything we've ever done. But at the same time, there's a lot of classic heavy metal stuff. There's a lot of focus on guitars and stuff like that, which I love. And so I think it's a mix of even some more pop elements, but some more classic heavy metal stuff as well. Um, and the simplicity, like you said, is something, it depends on what kind of mood I am in personally, but it's always something I love. Simple heavy metal songs that are straight to the point and very, very well executed. So
I
I
love.
think personally that we succeeded in making such
Oh,
an album.
100%. I love that old school solo when it's like back and forth, like that kind of shit for me on an album like this that has so much guitar drive. You need that shit. You need those kind of solos because they just add so much quality to the song, so much vibe to the song. You're able to create a modern sounding record, but bringing in some old school elements that never get old.
Exactly, because it's timeless. That's what it
Exactly.
is.
Exactly. How was it for you vocally this album? Did you struggle? Did you want it to change something? Did you want it to work on something?
No, I think it was very easy. I think I knew more or less exactly what I wanted to do with this album vocally when I started recording. Um, and I actually sort of dove back into like my original mindset when it comes to recording vocals. Like I was actually channeling, I was really inspired. Judas Priest released their latest album, Invincible Shield, last year, and that was right before I started recording. And if there's something that can really fire me up, then it's to listen to Rob Halford, still at the age of 70 plus, singing like his life depending on it, on every fucking note, and with the same kind of intensity and passion. So I was, really inspired by that and just channeling and just went all out on this album. And that was basically my game plan. So I recorded it very quickly and just song after song like this. And yeah, not really. Actually, a lot of the stuff vocally, a lot of the ad lib stuff was not planned in advance. It's something that I came up with on the spot in the studio, and that's the way I wanted to do it as well.
As a vocalist, how do you see your own growth? Obviously your work with Amaranth, Dynasty, two different bands, two different styles, a lot of similarities at the same time. How do you see your own growth when you look back at when everything started and where you are right now with an album like this?
Well, I see a lot of development and growth, like you said, for sure. And it's something that I always try to push myself uh, to never stop growing or developing myself as a singer, and to never feel like I'm really content. So that I always try to push it to the next level. And I mean, some you have your ups and downs in a long career or whatever. There's going to be ups and downs, especially with a physical instrument as the one I'm playing. But still, I can see a trajectory that I'm very happy with in general.
Do you do any work on the side to keep your voice fresh, to change certain things, to improve on certain things, Is there anything that you've done through the times?
I mean, things happen with your voice and your vocal cords, and your overall physicality as you age. And if you pay attention to your body, you can sort of fine tune yourself together with you aging. But for the past couple of 6, 7 years, I've been touring more or less constantly, except for during the COVID times, obviously. But so for me, it has been more about resting actually when I come off the road and resting my voice as much as I possibly can. And then right before going out on the road again, I start to, get back in shape vocally. But it's definitely important for me to actually let my voice rest completely for at least a couple of weeks here and there.
The lyrical content, are you the one responsible for the lyrics on the record?
Yes.
How are you as a lyric writer? Do you look at the songs and then think of the lyrics that would match the vibe of the songs, or do you write stuff all the time and then you just kind of go back and see what's there?
No, I start with the song. In general, that's how I always do it. I listen to the song and try to think of something that would actually speak for the song or enhance the song in any way lyrically. So I don't sit down and write lyrics just by myself. Usually never happens. It's just when I sit down with a particular song.
On this record, there's not a bad chorus. So when it comes down to writing the choruses, what's the secret formula?
I mean, it's the same formula that we've had for at least over 10 years, is that we really try to, like you said, make the chorus hit home strong. And we've done that for many years now. And I think at this point, we're quite experienced in making a chorus really kick in. And I mean, there's no one formula. It's just listen, use your ears, follow your musical instinct, and also rely on your experience, and you will get there eventually with that good chorus.
You said you guys are going to go on tour in Europe. Do you have any plans eventually to come to? I know the costs are extremely expensive. I mean, I'm not saying anything that you don't know. You know how expensive it is to tour North America. But we're seeing kind of a resurgence of this kind of metal in North America. We see a lot of bands becoming super popular here that have this sound. It's kind of having a second life, if you will. Are you guys thinking down the road of a possibility of a North American tour, perhaps?
I mean, for sure. I think it's just a question of sooner or later. We actually, this year, there was some pretty good offers on the table and some pretty good opportunities to do it already this year. But right now, it looks like other things are going to get in the way, and we might have to wait until maybe 2026. But North America is definitely on the cards for sure. And we're going to make sure that we actually do the very first proper Dynasty tour of the States. We're going to Brazil for the very first time in May, playing a huge festival there. So it's not exactly around the corner, but it's at least in the right direction.
Hey, for all
Uh,
those people that always comment, come to Brazil.
exactly. Now they now they finally get what they want.
Now they're
But
getting what they want. Uh,
let's see if those comments end, though. I'm not so sure.
I don't think they will. I don't think they will. Niels, I don't want to take any more of your time. I just want to say this. I've been listening to you guys for a long time, and I gotta say, this is the best record you guys have ever released. I know every band says that, and I know every new record, there's always like, this is our best record. But really, this is the best record.
Not everyone who reviews the album or listens to it says it, but so it's great to hear. I mean, we are very excited. We hear a lot of reactions now coming from all the people who have been listening to it, the album in advance and everything, and it's really exciting because, in my opinion, this is a bit of a curveball. This album for us, in many ways. While, like you said, it's also a very natural follow up if you think about it. So it's great to hear.
Yeah, because I was expecting going in to be very poppy because you guys have always had that pop feel to the songs. But when you add the incredible guitar sound that this album has, and you add this more power metal drive to the songs, and then I thought your vocal performance was the best that I've heard on record with Dynasty. All of these pieces coming together with a great album design, cutting the fat, like you said, it feels right. Like the album just felt really good to me. It was a fun record to listen to.
I'm very glad to hear it.
Thank you very much for your time, man. All the best with the touring, all the best with the record. Game of Faces comes out February 14th on Nuclear Blast. Once again, thank you for doing this.
No worries. It was my pleasure.